Good stuff. Right. I think we'll get cracking with this. We're 12 o'clock on the dot, so I think it's perfect time to be able to do it. So first of all, welcome everybody who's listening to this live today. And those of you who are listening to the recorded version later on. This live stream, this webinar, this sort of interview session that we're running today is being hosted by myself. I'm James Osborne. I'm the chairman and co-founder of the Recruitment Network, but also in partnership with Bullhorn and Cube19. We're going to be talking about a really fascinating subject, and a subject that I'm still trying to get my head around, to be very honest with you, which is around this whole concept of a 4-day work week. It's been bantered around all over the place. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are thinking about doing it, or deciding whether it's even possible in the recruitment sector or not. So what we wanted to do today was to invite along a couple of people who have done it, or are in the process of doing it at the moment, to get a sense of, is it working for them, and to what extent? How is it working? What should we be thinking about if we're thinking of doing this? Should we be doing it at all? Was it a big mistake for them? And so on and so forth. So my two guests today I'll quickly introduce. So we've got, first of all, Chris Holland, who's the Director of Marketing and Revenue Operations at the talent solutions firm Charlton Morris. Chris has had about 8 years, I believe, at Charlton Morris, working both as a recruiter and marketer, and has led the implementation of the 4-day work week by leveraging data in particular generated at the business as well. So Chris, listen, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us today, and welcome to today's session.
Thanks a lot.
And secondly, Liam Thomas, who I'm sure many of you have heard of, is co-founder of DataX Connect and also Highfield Professional Solutions, both recruitment organizations focusing on engineering and infrastructure and the data center sector. And Highfield, the group, DataX Connect, their vision is to become the most trusted built environment recruiter globally across the world. So Liam, great to have you here today as always. Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
So just to sort of kick things off, I suppose, let's put a bit of a backdrop around what we're doing here. If I start with Liam, first of all, if that's okay. So the 4-day work week, why did you even consider doing this in the first place? Why did it come about, and why did you decide to go down the route of giving it a go?
The nice thing about it for us, we'd obviously heard it bandied around a little bit. We've been doing it for a bit of context since summer last year. The good thing for us is it came up from the floor. We've got a colleague board, and they actually put the idea forward to us. So it came from one of our consultants, which was a nice idea. I think he was a little bit worried about putting the idea forward. He came into the meeting with a tin hat on. So we spoke about it and embraced it. I think they had an idea of, for the sales consultants, could they take a reduction in pay for a 4-day week? Would we be happy to maybe give them some money back if they hit targets based on productivity, that kind of thing? As a leadership team, we wanted it to be a really positive gesture and a positive movement. So yeah, we managed to roll it out on the basis of, full pay, no condensed hours. So yeah, that was where the idea came from.
Okay, and just with that, and I'm interested. This colleague board, I know, is going slightly off on a tangent, but I'm interested in this. There's a slight concern at the moment across a lot of the recruitment world, especially recruitment business leaders, that because recruiters are in such high demand, they're demanding a lot more from their employer. Is there a risk that, if we keep offering things like 4-day weeks, is this going to just keep going and going and going to the point where we're providing this ridiculously wonderful environment for recruiters to work in, but it's not productive and not profitable for us as business owners?
Absolutely, a massive risk. And certainly knowing how focused as recruiters tend to be on the figures, it's the first thing that crossed my mind. Will we instantly go to 80% productivity? And it's a fine line. We want to be an inclusive workplace that welcomes ideas from the floor and being a forward-thinking business as well. But you're right, there is a line that we have to draw somewhere. And part of it's about clarity of expectations. We can do this for you, but what do we want in return? It's got to be a give and take.
Right.
So I think as long as the expectations are clear about the benefit, but also what's expected in return, you're off to a good footing, and hopefully it's not a never-ending circle of continuous one-way benefits.
Okay, fantastic. I want to come back into that ROI on this in shortly. Chris, just from your point of view as a business then, what was the main driver behind the project for you guys?
I think it was about trying to give a little bit more back, being proactive in terms of, after COVID, we wanted to give more flexibility. We value the sort of culture that we managed to create in the office. So this was a compromise to do that, really. We looked at lots of different options and and decided to go with this. Basically in exchange for, similar to what Liam was saying, the expectation of everybody being the same. We expect the same sort of output for a day less work.
Okay, fantastic. And just from a clarity point of view to both of you, when we talk about a 4-day week, are we saying Friday, the doors are closed, we don't do business on a Friday? Or is it some people work on Monday to Thursday, some people do the Tuesday to Friday? So we've always got stuff happening in the business and we're not letting clients and candidates down. How did you manage that? Chris, kick off with you first.
Yeah, so for us, we're Monday to Thursday, Fridays closed technically in the sense that people don't have to work on a Friday, but the attitude is very much the same as if a client rings you on a Saturday, or you've got a client in the Middle East who rings you on a Sunday, and it's something urgent, you've got to arrange an interview or a phone call or something like that, then you will do it. It's not okay, it's a 24/7 job. But yeah, we don't have sort of proactive work happening on the Friday. That is the day off. And that's when we start trying to leverage things like technology and automation to do that heavy lifting for us.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Liam, is that the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And echo what Chris said. After a long time recruiting in the Middle East, been used to working on Sundays myself. So we would always do something. If the clients or candidates need us on a Saturday or Sunday, we hope we've got the right culture in the business where people will support that. And the Fridays, exactly the same as that. The expectations are very clear. But, to echo what Chris said as well, it's more being reactive rather than proactive. If there's something proactive we need to do to make sure requirements looked at or interviews checked in or some reassurances given, we'll do it. But it's, not a required action from the business.
But that's a tricky one, right? Because this is a cultural behavioural shift as much as anything else. So let's imagine a scenario. We've got a client who desperately needs to talk to someone because we've got a candidate that they're trying to get over the line. But Johnny, who's the recruiter, has decided to go scuba diving on his day off on the Friday sort of stuff. So he's currently underwater, unable to take a call. What happens in that scenario? Is the client going to be let down, or is there something that you do to sort of manage that situation?
I'll take this one. So when Johnny is going scuba diving, Johnny will have a buddy, and we're always in a position where nobody's going to be let down. No clients or candidates will feel a negative impact from this, and there'll always be someone picking up Johnny's work. So it works from both ways. And when Amy's picking up Johnny's work or vice versa, things will always get dealt with. But you need the right people in the business and the culture to foster that collaboration and people having each other's back. Yeah.
And so part of the sort of the initial rollout process of this, was there a huge load of work to be done around the behavior and the cultural side of your business? I know your culture of your business is excellent anyway, but this is a slightly different way of thinking, isn't it? Right. So did you have to do a lot of work on that before you could actually roll this out across the business?
Huge for us, pre-COVID, this wouldn't have worked for us. And to anyone watching this who's thinking about implementing it, I would say, people and then secondly, data are the most important things. But if you don't have the right people, the right culture, and if you're not genuinely a values-driven business where people will support each other and take care of your customers, this won't work. So yeah, we had to do a huge amount of work on getting that right, getting the values in place, and making sure the culture can actually do what we needed to do in terms of a 4-day week.
Okay, great. And Chris, with Charlton Morris, then you mentioned before about automations and that type of stuff. Like, I love this concept of when a recruiter's not there, stuff is still happening in the background anyway to sort of keep them 24/7, 7 days a week. The culture in Charlton Morris, was there a big driver around rather than worrying about the people side of things, let's replace it with automations and tech instead? Was that the sort of the thinking, or?
No, not necessarily. I think, like what Liam said, we went on a similar journey in terms of being really value driven. And I think the big thing that I would recommend to anybody doing that we did was to do this as a trial initially. What we did was we didn't announce our trial at all publicly. We just did it behind the scenes for 4 months. And then when we decided we were going to go full time with it, which was in November, we launched it. I think that trial period and the run up to that trial period was when we've started really implementing that automated side of it, because we didn't want to just say we want to replace X, Y, and Z with automation, and that's a part of this. The first thing we wanted to do was establish what we can do and achieve in a 4-day week, and then see if there are any gaps that we need to fill in with this automation and this tech. What we've seen since is has been really positive, and it's it's much more of a sort of softly approach with the automation, that tech side. It's not doing for example, new client outreach or anything like that, any of that really high risk stuff. It's just something that keeps things going when we're not around.
Okay, great. And if you don't mind, can we just explore that a little bit more? Because I'm fascinated by the automations and workflows. I love them. I think they're a big part of a future thinking recruitment business. What give me an example of an automated workflow that might be happening on a Friday when we're all off? I don't know why I'm picking scuba diving today, but we're all going to go scuba diving together. Give me an example of an automated workflow that's happening whilst that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, well, one that you'd be able to do would be something like getting quick interview feedback for a candidate that's had an interview, or you want to get some questions that you run out. Like surveys are such a big part of it. You can set automations based on the end time of an interview. Make sure that something goes out an hour after that. Let them know with that email that's automated, I'll be following up with you in X, Y, and Z days time. But what's your initial thoughts? What's your initial reaction to that? How did things go?
Yeah.
Which is obviously a fairly basic communicative one, but that's an example that would work.
Okay, so it's quite light touch marketing comms automations as opposed to actually sort of trying to carry on the recruitment process per se itself.
Yeah. For us, it is. I mean, I think that there's a lot more. Like we're heavily retained, we're heavily perm, do pretty sort of senior level stuff. So I think at a higher volume type recruitment business, I know there's a lot more of that process automation that can come in, which is still something that we are exploring. We're not there yet, purely because I think that we charge a premium for our human connection. So we have to keep it that light touch side.
Okay, fantastic. And just a quick question on this then. Your businesses are heavily perm businesses, or majority perm business. Would this work in a sort of a fast moving temp contract world over a perm business, Liam?
Yeah, definitely for us. So our Highfield business is, predominantly contract based, and it's about leveraging technology. We use Hairfish automations, the same as Chris, but we haven't ventured into, the full recruitment process automations. Again, similarly, we still like to have that human touch wherever there's an influence involved. I think we're still some steps away from being able to automate that human characteristic of influencing people, which is a key part of our roles. But absolutely, as long as the tech's there, we use Cloud Call for all our systems on a Friday, and everyone's just as contactable as they would be no matter where they were. We're all a lot more used to working remotely now, so it doesn't impact running a contract business at all, in my perspective.
Okay, brilliant. Let's just go back a little bit to the principles behind the four-day week. Obviously, there's lots of different ways you can do this, right? There's a lot of people talking about doing the 9-day fortnight and et cetera, et cetera. We have a thing called glide time, etc. Why did you decide to go down a 4-day week, which is obviously a fairly big sort of statement, and it's quite impactful, rather than sort of maybe lead yourself into it with a 9-day fortnight or something a little bit easier first and foremost? Chris, I'll start with you on that.
Well, I think for us, firstly, what we do we work a 19-day period. So what we do is every fourth Friday for around half a day, usually, we do come in to celebrate the end of our period. And that's usually where we do training, guest speakers, or have celebrations of some description. So that's all kept in that box there, which is usually something that, we'd run from 12 till 3 or 4 or something like that of an afternoon, or perhaps earlier. But essentially the working the 4-day week, we brought it in because I think, as I say, it's for us, it was just all about that trial. We didn't know, to be honest. But we wanted to, if we were going to trial something, we wanted to trial something and go whole hog and then pull it back a little bit, rather than make incremental steps, which would have taken a lot longer. And, in terms of full transparency, we wanted to be a first mover on it as well, which I think was quite important. If you're going to do this and make an impact, you've got to be brave, take that deep breath and do it over that trial period, and then see what happens. And so thankfully, so far, touch wood, it's paid off. Okay.
And Liam, is that the same for you?
Yes, similar, I would say. But for us, a lot of it came down to trust as well. Trust's a constant theme that runs throughout our business, trying to gain it with clients and candidates, but also, colleagues, internal staff as well. if you manage to pass the bar and come onto the team, you automatically got 100% trust. So for us, 4.5 days is a bit of a watered down version. We wanted it to be a life-changing benefit, and the 3-day weekend every weekend is a genuine life-changing benefit. So if you trust the people, empower them to do the job in 4 days.
Yeah, okay. The risk, obviously, you've got though by doing a trial on this, is that if you do some form of trial and then you decide it doesn't work and then you take it back, are you going to end up with a whole bunch of disengaged recruiters who are going, well, I actually quite like my scuba diving on a Friday and now you've taken that away from me? Was that a concern? Is that a concern for you?
Not if you make the expectations absolutely crystal clear at the beginning of it. You know, we labeled it as a bit of an experiment.
Okay.
We're gonna try this. We're gonna see how it works. We're not experts in it, but we'll give it our best shot. But our biggest priority is providing a good service to our customers. And if it doesn't work from that aspect, be very clear that, you know, we will go back and scuba diving on Saturday and Sundays only.
Okay, fine. The scuba diving world's doing really well out of this, I have to say. And one of the things that you said, Chris, that you wanted to be a first mover on this is if you were to take a big step back now and putting your hats on, which I think what you've done here, by the way, is brilliant in the sense of you're doing it for the value and the benefit of your employees as much as anything else. Do you want this to be something that's everywhere and that all recruitment companies are doing this, or do you want to keep it as the sort of the specific USPs for Highfield and Charles Morris, etc.? Is that sort of, you know, would you rather it be something that is unique to you to help you attract and engage people better?
Personally, for me, no, I'd like to see it be more widespread. I think that, you know, our vision as a business that we've sort of rolled out over the last few months is we want to, you know, change the way the world sees recruitment. We're very passionate about recruitment being seen as an exciting, you know, fast moving industry that people want to be a part of and make a career out of, not something that's going to be, you know, 2 years in and then done. And I think that you can't avoid some of the pressure that comes with recruitment. And I think that this is a nice way to, you know, release a little bit of that, provide a really big incentive that you've got that in it, and just make it more as an attractive industry to be a part of. You know, don't get me wrong, some people won't do it well, won't do it right, and, you know, won't approach it with that value-led mission. But I would certainly like to see it make recruitment a more attractive industry.
And Liam, because we're in a fight for talent.
Yeah, we are. I'm slightly mixed on it. I would say, and again, similar to Chris, if it's right for your business and you are truly values-led and they're not just some words on a wall, then, and it fits in with your mission and what you're trying to achieve, then go for it, because, you know, it can be a genuine USP. But if it's all smoke and mirrors, it will fall down pretty quick. So I believe there's lots of other USPs that different businesses can find that don't need to be this, and people shouldn't perhaps jump on the bandwagon for the wrong reasons, because it will probably end up going wrong quite quickly. There's a lot more USPs that people can have in this war for talent that will fit people's different business models better than this, because, you know, it has its challenges as well as its benefits.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then just looking at the principles, and we'll go into we're going to deep dive in a second into actually, is this working, you know, and the realities behind it. But by doing this sort of process, the way I look at it, you're sort of loosening things a little bit in your business, in the sense of you're loosening the control element of your business and giving a little bit back to the employees. I'm a big believer in that you need to maintain control. You know, with this work from anywhere, work from home environment that we've had because of COVID, I think you need to have more control than ever before. And that's where obviously things like data, things like technology allow us to be able to do that. The stuff that, you know, Bullhorn and Cube 19 have given you guys that you work with in your business. Just talk to me a little bit around the sort of technology stack that you've implemented to sort of keep your businesses tight whilst at the same time you're loosening the reins a little bit.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. I mean, I think what we found with COVID and pandemic and working from anywhere and working from home was that through using Bullhorn and Cube 19, we'd sort of accidentally set our business up to be able to work from anywhere without really having any intention of doing. We sort of made that transition and then went, oh, hang on, this is okay. And that's, you know, that's the primary tech stack that we've used, and that the data and insights that we've got from that. You know, we also use Odro, we use that, and we use the statistics around all that sort of thing. But to go back to your point on loosening control, I don't necessarily think that it has been about loosening control. It's like Liam said, it's been about trust, it's been about ownership, but also everyone being very, very accountable, and us still having those regular check-ins, those regular conversations about performance, and having much more of a focus on productivity instead of just output. Instead of just inputs, which I think people can fall into that trap of, and leveraging Cube 19, looking at ratios instead of statistics for, as one small example is a massive help for that.
Yeah, and I think the Cube 19 stuff is about meaningful insights that you can actually make tangible, proper decisions with, and that sort of thing. Liam, have you got any examples of where you've used, I suppose, Cube as an example, or the data within your business to help you hold on to that productivity and that performance and keep increasing at those marginal gains?
Yeah, massively. It's such an indispensable tool for us, and even a slightly, I'm not great looking at huge amounts of reports and things like that, but in Cube it makes it so easy. You can build them yourself. So one of the things that we use is really like productivity per client, where there's a lot of activity around particular businesses, and you will hear a lot of noise around certain companies within a business. I'm sure we all will, but it's actually how productive is that? How deep are these relationships? Are we leveraging everything we need to? Looking at the ratios, what's the time spent on each client? Are we getting a good return? And Cube's just perfect for that, because you can break it down per team, per consultant, and see all of the activity across one client and see how much return and beneficial that client is to your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I've said this time and time again, especially over the last 6 to 12 months, the most important metrics right now are capacity, productivity, and profitability, and contribution, that type of stuff, whether it be profitability and contribution per client or per consultant or just any part of your business. I think we need to get a lot deeper down into that than maybe where we have been in the past, which is quite top level type of stuff. Let's go back into the rollout of the process that you did. So can you just walk me through, Liam, I'll start with you, on what did you actually do? So you got your board together, your colleague board together, so got an idea. What do you reckon, Liam? You then had to make a decision about whether you actually wanted to do that. So how did you make that decision, making it as risk-free as possible? And then what was the actual process, step by step, to get from we're going to give it a go to where you are today with rolling it out?
Ooh, big question.
I don't need 6 months worth, by the way.
I guess the first part about, it's what's our appetite for risk, because it is a risk, and turning the clock back on this would be something that, even though everyone's aware it could happen, is still not going to be an easy decision. So I guess the first aspect of it, if you're not comfortable with turning the clock back and saying we're going back to a 5-day week and that's too much of a risk for your business, you shouldn't do it. You need to be aware that that is something that could happen. But on the flip side, it's understanding the benefits and making everyone very clear that we can only make this work if we pull together as a team. It's about working together. It's about being collaborative. It's about trusting each other. And we all need to get the same out of 4 days that we previously got out of 5 days. If we keep repeating the same things over and over again, we will get the same results, which will likely be 80% of where we were before. So it's those marginal gains. It's how do we make sure we're really in that flow state as much as possible Monday to Thursday, so we can do those things that we all want to do and enjoy a bit more on a Friday with a bit more freedom. Is
this going to sound callous? I'll ask it anyway, because it's my job too. Is it wrong to say, rather than let's get 100% out of people over 4 days, over 80% of their time, to rather instead say, why don't we just aim for 120% out of 100% of the time?
Absolutely, and I think certain businesses would look at that. I know other businesses where if the board of those businesses sat down, it'd be like, brilliant. Let's just turn it up and get another 20% out of Monday to Friday. Yeah. But if you care about the people you work with and you want them to have long careers and you want to retain all of your best people, we should share some of that profitability round as business owners. We want people to be here for a long time, to have meaningful careers, and also to attract the best people. And if we can use that as a differentiator, I think longer term, we will become more profitable and outgrow the competition anyway.
Okay, great. And Chris, from a trial point of view, just quickly show me how you rolled this out as a trial.
Yeah, so we initially had the conversation and announced it to the business that we were going to do a 3-month trial. It was going to be very much focused on learning. It was all about productivity, all about return on effort. So over the course of our 3-month trial, we did various different presentations. We had sort of guests, well, Zoom speakers come out to the business who are experts in productivity and look at these different ways in which we could be more effective. After the 3 months, we actually trialed it over the summer. So we ended in September, which was sort of around our end of year. We decided to put another month on it purely because summer's a bit of a strange time to do it. And, like once you've gone whole hog, it's difficult to go back. So we wanted to just take that extra month to do it, to push things out further. And then we went, full time with it actually in November last year. And, we regularly had regular meetings as the directors, but the managers, the leadership teams and various people and stakeholders were constantly encouraged to share their productivity tips and tricks and try and create that sort of culture of improvement for everybody.
Okay, so there's been mass movements happening at the moment across the recruitment sector. So a lot of recruiters switching jobs, moving in and out of the industry, except all that sort of good stuff that we tend to get these typical cycles, which is not unexpected. Have you seen a big stickiness in your business when it comes to people and staff? And have you, because of this, over retained people that you didn't think you would? Because people want to stay with you more now. Are you now seen as an employer of choice with your audience?
I'll jump on that. I think so. We've always put a lot of effort into being recognised as a great employer, with it best companies to work for and great place to work and invest in people. And this was a continuation of that rather than a new thing and a decision to say let's be somewhere good to work. Over the course of we've grown significantly from a headcount perspective over the last 6 to 9 months, of which 6 has been the full-time 4-day week stuff. So 4 has been the full-time 4-day week. We haven't noticed any real retention issues, or we've kept hold of our people.
Yeah, I suppose not issues, but I suppose could you fundamentally say, because you now implemented a 4-day week, people want to stay with you now more than they may have done if you hadn't had it?
I would be able to answer that question in probably about a week's time. We do quarterly pulse engagement surveys, which one went out like the day before yesterday, which will be reflecting on this. It was received, we did one at the end of the trial, which it was received very positively. We didn't specifically ask that question, but what we have seen is, as I say, we've been able to add and grow headcount. We've been able to bring some brilliant people in from elsewhere in the sector who have been attracted to join us and work with us. So I suppose, yes, but couldn't sort of hang my hat on that as a definite.
Okay, and Liam, I know you guys are growing significantly fast and etc., which is brilliant. When you look at the people that you're bringing into the business now, how many of them they must mention it in the interview process? That one of the reasons why we came here is because of what you're doing. Have you seen a big uplift because of it?
Yeah, we have. It's a double-edged sword, I would say, because we've seen an increase in the quality of good applicants. But also, we've had people perhaps applying for the wrong reasons as well. Okay. So I think it's, the applications are through the roof. There's no denying that. But, at a time when everybody's looking for good people, particularly good recruiters, it's down to us as a leadership team to make sure that bar's still really, really high, because it would be easy to take on some of the wrong people who were purely attracted to working here because of the 4-day week. And that isn't at all what we're looking for. We're looking for people who can genuinely get 5 days work into 4 and, have the benefits, not people who want to come here for an easy ride. But yeah, even though I think the really good people we've attracted to the business, I think they still would have been attracted anyway. Mm-hmm. 4-day week is not necessarily the benefit for them that they're looking for, but they more want to be part of a forward-thinking organisation who's prepared to push the boundaries and do the right thing by the staff.
How do you performance manage someone in your business if they're significantly underperforming and they're off scuba diving on Friday?
It comes back to the values. So we just push everything back to the values. It's easy in recruiters' roles to look at whether people are underperforming because it's all driven by numbers, but we will reflect back to our values. One of our values is drive, and if you're not showing that drive to do things at any point of the week at all when you're underperforming, there's something going wrong, and we will have a conversation about it. So yeah, everything we do links back to values, which makes it quite straightforward.
But would it drive you insane if you knew someone was underperforming and on that Friday they had the day off, you knew they blatantly weren't even trying to put any effort in to try and catch up a little bit? Would that drive you a bit insane and mad?
No, I would. Maybe internally, but externally, it would just be a very, very quick conversation about, reinforcing those expectations. That's not how we do things here. And it's more about the culture we have here. The team would manage a lot of that. If there's people not pulling their weight and it's fairly obvious, I think the rest of the team would be thinking, look, make sure this benefit is not going to be put in jeopardy by any one individual who's not pulling their weight. So yeah, you need the right people to make that work. But fortunately, we've not had too many cases of it.
Okay, let's ask probably one of the most important questions: is it working, or does it work for you? And you can focus on engagement, attraction of employees, that type of stuff. But ultimately, we're recruitment business owners. We're looking at productivity, performance, and profitability. Have you seen a positive uplift that's completely attributable to what you've done, or have you seen it's the same but you've got happier people, or has it in any way gone down? Chris, I'll start with you on that.
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen across the board things improve. Basically, we came into this saying we're not necessarily looking for a productivity increase. We think if we can drop a day and things can stay the same, then that is justification to give people a better life. Get that work-life balance, give an amazing experience. But then I think what that's coincided with is this real focus on productivity, this focus on return on effort, getting the most out of what you do. We've seen, we've been filling roles. Time to fills dropped year on year by just over 20%. We've been increasing our fill rate by over 25% as well year on year, based on the stuff that we're picking up. Because I think when your time becomes that much more valuable, you prioritize everything that much more, and you'll work on the good stuff. You'll qualify that vacancy a little bit more to make sure that you can fill it, or you'll say we're not the people to help with this, and you value what you're doing more. So that's what we've seen from it. Everything, those metrics, and which obviously have a big knock-on effect to revenue and things like vacancy, requisitions, and jobs, has all increased, which we're obviously delighted with.
So you're definitely more profitable because of it.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Liam, how about you?
Difficult one to answer. We set our targets for 2021 in December the year before, and we rolled out the 4-day week at the midpoint in the summer. We kept our targets that we set when the 4-day week wasn't even on the radar. And for the second half of last year, we were 11% up on NFI. Mm-hmm. I'm always kind of positively discontent with a result like that, because the market's so good, and I think it is for nearly all of the sectors at the moment. How much of that's influenced by a really, really good market, and how much of a good job did we do internally? If I'm honest, I think perhaps it's a little bit of both. I think we did a fairly good job, but those figures are definitely inflated by how good the market is. Until we can judge, how well all of the competition have done as well, I think it's a very, very difficult question to answer. The real test will come when there's a bit of a downturn, which there will be inevitably.
Yeah. Okay. So generally the perception is it's working, but we don't know to what extent and to how much of that is because of the sort of, I wouldn't take a fake environment that we're in at the moment, but this euphoric environment, or this work environment that we're in at the moment, which is great. But irrespective of that, you're still growing, you're still increasing profitability, you're still ahead of the target and NFI and everything else. And presumably you've got a much more engaged and happier workforce, which has got to be a big tick box for a business owner. Well, what are some of the downsides of doing this? I mean, for you as leaders in the business, but also the employees themselves, are there any downsides? Because one of the things that people talk about, and I always find it funny when people initiate this type of stuff, is there's always a whole bunch of people who come up with a whole random load of lists of reasons why people shouldn't do these things. And one of which is that it actually increases the amount of stress in people because they don't know what to do with their extra day off, which I find a bit bizarre, because I think I'm relaxed with that. I think I can find plenty of things to do with my day off, even if it's come back in the office and do more work. But I think there are concerns it might be a negative. This might be a negative play. Downsides for you guys, Liam?
Yeah, no, definitely not that challenge. We've not had any problem people saying, "Oh, these Fridays are absolutely killing me." It's more, not everybody can turn up that productivity dial. That's the challenge. It does not suit everybody. Too many people think they can, produce the same inputs and get 20% more on the outputs, which just isn't the case. But in terms of work-life balance, all very positive. The drawbacks are, it's definitely not suitable for everyone. You have to have the right mindset to make it work.
Yeah. And how? So what? Okay, and this is an interesting point, right? So we can recruit people. We think with the future mindset we're looking for. If we look at our existing workforce, we want to roll this out, and we've got a bunch of people in there we know haven't got the right mindset. Does that mean we probably shouldn't do it, or do we have to get rid of those people, or do we have to try and convert them?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a two-way approach, really. With the people we had in the business pre-COVID, we definitely wouldn't have been able to make it work. We know that for a fact. There was a bit of right sizing during COVID and making sure people were completely aligned to the values of the business until we got a real core group of people we know could commit to making it work. But I would say don't try it until you're really sure that you've got the right people in the business. Otherwise, there will be, I'd predict a fair bit of attrition.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, great. And Chris, back to you. The on the downside thing, I want to sort of try and lead you a little bit on this, if that's okay. When it comes to things like customer relationships, candidate relationships, and that type of stuff, is there any downside? Are we seeing? Let's look at the data on Cube and wherever, and through Bullhorn, and are we seeing a trend where actually on the day off, the Friday, we're getting less engagement from clients, less from candidates. It's impacting conversion. So we're doing a really good job Monday to Thursday, and everyone's packing it all in, which is superb. Does it just drop off on Friday completely?
It doesn't drop off on Friday completely. If I'm honest, it probably drops off slightly more than it did when we were working a 5-day week. But I think there's, in our experience, always a natural drop off on a Friday anyway, which is the reason why we chose Friday as the day to do it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Let's just talk about where you go from here, I suppose, and what you've done. Yeah, I think you've, in a good way, I think you've opened up a bit of a can of worms, and I think it was why people are listening into today and that type of stuff. Well, what happens next? Do you now start offering unlimited holidays? Do you now start offering choose your hours? Work from anywhere, do what you like. Doesn't really matter, as long as productivity is there, as long as the results are there. I don't really care who you are, where you are, and what you do it, or where you do it.
For us, we actually had unlimited holidays. We were working 5-day week. We had unlimited holidays, which is something that we've reined back in because you've just been given an extra 52 days holiday a year. So we're back to a holiday allowance on top of the 4-day week. Right. This was, us going down this 4-day week route was a conscious decision. We had a lot of options in front of us. How do we offer more flexibility to our people? What's going to work the best for our business? And we wanted to do it like this because, like, I was saying before, the people who we want in the office, we want to come into the office, create that culture, have that environment, and have that on a 4-day week, aside from our principal consultants who basically work anywhere. But yeah, we consciously chose to do that and not have a work from anywhere, not have a work at any time situation. Which, I know the next step of this is that, I've seen people on LinkedIn and various other places saying, well, the 4-day week isn't flexible enough. It's not catering to everybody. But that's just what we've done and what we're sticking to. Okay, brilliant. And Liam, I don't want to open up too many of can of worms because I know your staff are probably listening into this. What's the next stage for you guys from here?
So we've got, the unlimited holiday already in the 4-day week. For us, in terms of the flexibility, that's probably about the level that feels comfortable for us. Mm-hmm. And now it's really about driving performance. So from our point of view, it's, if you've got people who've got an excellent work-life balance, 3-day weekends every weekend, they've got unlimited holiday that they can use, it's really about driving that performance, because if people are being well rewarded, they have lots of career opportunities and they're performing very well in their role with all that flexibility, that's just a perfect recipe for success in our book.
Good. No, I love that. Okay, great. We're talking a lot about consultants. Let's just refer back to the back office and everybody else within the business. Does this impact them? How does it impact them? Does it impact things like communication? I've got to do payroll on a Friday and there's nobody around to tell me who I'm meant to be paying. What happens around that sort of side of things?
Yeah, I think I can probably take this one. It's definitely an area we've struggled with massively for non-recruiters and managers as well. To be fair, it's challenging to just find that extra 20%. In reality, I'd say a lot of our back office and support functions are doing more like a 4.5-day week to get everything done, just because the volume of work is so hard to condense when it's not as outputs driven and it's more input driven. The recruiters have been able to adapt to it a lot better. But, our head of finance, for example, is not close to a 4-day week at the moment. And it will be a challenge for him to get there. And I think that's probably just the nature of the way where we can't measure their roles in outputs quite as well.
So does that mean, in essence, you're going to have to increase resource now to support that potentially, which is going to increase costs, obviously?
Absolutely. So that will be the longer term plan. We're not there of it yet, but we're adding more headcount to cover just because they can't do that. So yeah, that will definitely impact profitability.
Okay. And one last question. I think we're going to get close to sort of rounding this up soon. And again, I'm just trying to get to the practicalities of this a little bit. If we are in a situation where it's Friday, 9 o'clock, new clients, heard of you guys, phones in with 5 retained roles, let's say, well, let's take 5 contingent roles, but they need people, this turnaround really, really quickly, ridiculously good margins, 28%, 30% margins on the perm side, and there's nobody in. Does that mean you're going to lose them to your competitor next door? So, what's the process from here? Do they wait until Monday morning to hear from you guys, or is there some mechanism to make that work? Because if there's nobody in the office, there's nobody in the office, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that is, again, you can lean on your technological setup to help out with, with things like forwarding, with things making. I mean, one of the things that we did a long time ago was having, we split our divisions into separate websites, so the contact numbers will differ for each one, and you can get through to the right person that you need to get through to there. So we'd hope that comes in the right place. That is an excellent problem we've yet to experience, but it's something that is certainly worth bearing in mind. We're looking at, we don't work with Cloud Call at the moment. I think that's something that we'll be able to help with something like that. Liam, yeah. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, we do. And having that tech set up, I think it's two-pronged in all of these approaches. It's having the tech, but also it's the people. If you have the right people, if you've hired the right people, if you have the right values, the people want to look after their customers. And if something comes in on a Friday morning, for us, it's absolutely not acceptable to leave that until the next week. So, people want to do it off their own backs. So it's not like we're standing over them to say, you must do that. It will naturally get picked up because of the culture in the business.
Okay, so that call will come on, and that call will be picked up. So as far as the customer's concerned, it's almost like we're live and kicking, and everyone's there sort of working, although we're actually not, type thing. Is that
yeah, there's absolutely no change in perception. We'll have a receptionist answering the call on all the calls on a Friday, screening them appropriately, leaving messages, etc., flagging anything urgent. And we've got a process in place that people will follow to make sure our clients and candidates are getting the same experience they get Monday to Thursday.
So really, if a recruitment organisation is listening to this today, is going to roll this out, the first thing to do is ensure that you've got a tech stack and a platform that allows, as far as the outside world is concerned, it's business as usual going on all day long sort of stuff. What you're doing behind the scenes is slightly irrespective to an extent.
Absolutely. And I think we're all more used to that in the way we've been working for the past 2 years. So yeah, definitely need to get that in order. Okay.
When you look at the working hours and that you have in your office, I'm just interested by this, is that, and this is one of the questions actually we've had someone sent in, do people now work longer hours Monday to Thursday? I mean, are they basically doing 12-hour shifts as opposed to a 10-hour shift every day on a Monday, Thursday? So they're actually doing the same amount of hours anyway. They're just cramming it into a 4-day week. Have you got people in your office, Liam, at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning, just trying to get stuff done on Thursday night because they've got to go scuba diving tomorrow morning?
Not quite. No, we didn't condense the hours. We spoke about it in the leadership team. We spoke about condensing hours Monday to Thursday, but then it felt a bit like giving with one hand and taking away with the other. So we kept the hours Monday to Thursday exactly the same. And I think, again, it comes back to tech and people. People tend to stay in the office a similar amount of time, but they'll maybe pick something up in the evening, or run a quick search or fire off some LinkedIn messages in the evening, just because tech enables them to do that. But no, we haven't found, we don't have a culture of presenteeism here, and we haven't found people staying longer in the office just to be seen and not be productive, really. So it's been fine on that front.
Okay, fantastic. Chris?
Yeah, I think a fundamental part of moving to a 4-day week is having the belief that you can do what you can do in 5 days in 4. And so if you don't have that belief, and you are expecting that people are going to be still working whatever it was before, 48, 50, 60-hour week, or whatever people were doing, in 4 days instead of 5, then that isn't sort of the point of it. It's, it's not a tokenistic thing of where we just want to say it and then just sort of figure it out later. I think there has to be that belief. You have to put those things in place to make it as effective as possible and allow you people to do things in 4 days, which involves adding resources, involves being more productive, and just involves being a bit more strategic with how you treat your time.
Yeah, no, fantastic. There's so much we can delve into. Liam, if you were to sit down today with a recruitment business owner, any size recruitment company, let's say 20 people, and they were asking the question, should they go for it? What would you say? And let's presume they're non-competing next door to you in where you put your office.
Yeah, if they're really close to us, definitely don't. But yeah, if they were other end of the country, I would say just check on the people. Really, you look at the values, and we've spoken about it quite a bit today. But if they're genuinely not really ingrained into your business and you're hiring, rewarding, promoting, firing based purely on those values, you need to be sure you've got the right people to make it work, because it will fall down quicker than ever if you don't have the right people. And then once you've got the right people, make sure your tech stack aligns to being able to run a 4-day business, and give your clients and candidates what they need over 5 days.
Yeah, fantastic. And Chris, same question for you.
Yeah, I would say you need, the first thing you'd have to do a lot of caveating, I think, with it. You'd have to say, speak to your people, look at your tech stack. Are you ready to do it? Are you prepared for the consequences of it? Do you have that facility? How much do you do on a Friday? Which is your least productive day? What's your least productive method of business development and candidate acquisition? And really diving into those processes and having the ability to do that. Because if you don't have the data and you haven't got a starting point, then you've got nowhere to measure it by. And I think that would, you wouldn't just be able to blindly say yes or no. It'd depend on a lot more than that.
And just for clarity then, on the metrics, are we talking predominantly about output metrics rather than input metrics? So are you still as fixated when you're looking at Cube, when you're looking at stuff that's pumping out of Bullhorn, are you still looking at call times, volume of calls, etc.? Are you now really switching it over to conversions and outputs that are coming from that?
Yeah, for us, we've had a definite shift to conversions, to ratios. We've spent a lot of time looking at things like different types of business development and getting those segmented properly in Bullhorn so that we can see what works more effectively. Also doing a lot more training, looking at things like time to fill and being very, very output dominated, which I think is traditionally where recruitment has not been at its best in the past. There's been throw things at a wall and see if it sticks, whereas we're now looking at what sticks and working backwards.
Yeah, and I think the principle for me, when you look at things like Cube 19, the data that comes from that, the reality is, data is all very good, metrics are all very good. It's the commentary that sits behind that. It's the so what you're going to do because of it, I think, which is the kicker. So I really appreciate your time today. I think it's been fascinating. I think there's so much more we can talk about here, and I think we should. I think it goes back into this classic thing, isn't it? Something like this, does it work? Well, clearly it does work. Should we be doing it? Well, if you've got the right people, the right processes, the right technology in place, then why wouldn't you give it a go? Which makes a lot of sense. The question is, do you have the right people, processes and technology in place to even consider it? I think, which is the fundamental thing. I think clearly the work that you guys are doing at Charlton Morris and obviously at Highfield and DataX, you've got those things sorted and you're building accordingly, which I think is great. I'll be fascinated to find out maybe in 6 months' time what's actually happened and the results that have come from that. Can't wait to meet you again, Liam, when we'll see you again, Liam, I should say, when there's the massive downturn. And is it still absolutely flying? Which I'm sure it will be, of course, but it's a really interesting place. So Chris and Liam, thank you so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone who's listening in today really appreciates your input as well, and your honesty and openness about how you structure the business. Just as a quick note, for those of you on listening to this today, if you are interested and if you're really thinking about this whole piece around combining your analytics with automations, which I think is a big part, not only just a 4-day week, but everything you're doing running your business, then on the 23rd of Feb, there's another webinar with Cube 19 and Bullhorn talking all about that, combining analytics and automations together. So I'd highly recommend that. I'm sure if you look out for the guys at Bullhorn, they'll send the links out to you so you can see that. But other than that, listen, thank you so much for all of those of you being here today. Absolutely brilliant. Liam and Chris, once again, thank you. Thank you to Bullhorn and Cube 19 for hosting this and making this possible. If you want to reach out and ask any more questions about Cube 19 and Bullhorn, obviously reach out to the team there. I'm sure Liam and Chris will be happy to take the odd call or two too many about what they're up to in their business and how they're structured it. And same thing again, obviously, if you want to reach out to me at the Recruitment Network to find out a bit more about how we're helping companies with this type of stuff, then feel free to give me a shout. Other than that, have a fantastic afternoon. Lovely to see you all, and thank you again.